Welcome back, everyone, to this edition of the Fly Culture podcast. The new season feels so close, I can almost taste it. Is it okay to say I'm counting down the days, hours, and minutes until I step into my beloved river tour once again? We'll see. Today I have two mega talented guests with me to tell me about a really exciting fishing festival taking place in April. I'm thrilled to be joined by Eoin Fairgrieve and Colin Macleod. Gents, great to have you here. And of course, Colin, last time we did a podcast together, you called a salmon for me. So I've got high hopes for today.
Yeah, set the bar a wee bit too high there, I think, on that one.
That was a pretty magical moment though, wasn't it?
It was good. Yeah. Right at the last gasp as well. We'd fished all day. I think it was about 3 o'clock, wasn't it? We got it. So, yeah, that was pleasing. That was a nice fish as well.
Absolutely. I remember every moment of that as well. And the discussion about, well, we probably won't fish that pool. Perhaps we will. And then lo and behold, you pulled some magic out. So thank you for that. Yeah, it's lovely to get a fish for a podcast.
We spent the whole day saying we probably won't catch anything. And then when we did catch something, we didn't have anything to say about it. It's odd law, isn't it?
The fascinating thing about that, though, many people who listened to this when we put it out actually said, I've never really wanted to go salmon fishing, but that made me want to go. So I think it ended up being a great advert for salmon fishing. We're obviously going to drill into this a little bit more deeply about the fishing as well, and of course the festival. But Eoin, you've been pretty busy as well. I guess it's time for tune-ups for casting and people getting ready with the season underway there now.
It is, Pete, and it's a great time. At the first start of the season, it's always a question of refining your technique. And a lot of people, actually, the busiest time for us as a teach and practice is the front half of the season, because people obviously are preparing for the times ahead. So thankfully and cautiously optimistic for the season going ahead for the level of instructional bookings.
And do you enjoy that process? Because I remember when I used to do it, that sometimes you'd teach people some stuff and then you'd watch them a little bit afterwards and hadn't always stuck in the way that you'd hoped it had done. But that's part of that now, isn't it? Being able to the mental aspect of it and getting people to take in that information. Because I guess at times it can be a bit overload as well, can't it?
Yes, absolutely. And I think as people, we're all chameleon, like you have to adjust as instructors, and anybody that's taught would appreciate this, that you have to adjust to the person and what is the best way to relay that information to that specific person. And there's a huge scope for that, to be honest. The most important thing that I find is you have to get people into a relaxed and positive learning environment. And it's a relationship. It is undoubtedly a relationship. And ultimately, if you're bouncing off each other, the person will improve for sure.
Yeah, fantastic. And does it mean that you're getting out to go and do some fishing?
So just now the waters have been quite high for us. So we don't purposely get onto the water during the closed season, because we like to keep salmon instruction for the duration of the season, which is February through to the end of November. So we're very much looking forward to next Saturday when it starts. And from there, it's a steady start, Pete, but the great opportunity is that we get back on the river. Because to be honest, from my own point of view, I always have a practice session once a week if I can. But early parts of the season, we're looking for 2 or 3 times just to get out and iron out any slight misgivings in the time, which we all have, I'm sure.
Yeah. Colin, have you managed to get out? I know you've been busy tying flies.
No, I haven't actually. Yeah, I don't know. I've my focus has been pulled to the right a wee bit this year by sea trout. I've had a wee notion. I used to do a lot of sea trout fishing, and of course springers and salmon I've taken over for most of my life. But I saw this Paul Young Hooked on Scotland episode, and he was fishing for sea trout in Orkney in February, and I was like, maybe I might give that a go. So I don't know. I just go with the flow, really. I'll see. I always say every year, no, I'm not going to go early salmon fishing. No. And then as soon as it gets to 1st of February, something starts twitching, and all of a sudden I'm driving down the road to the Tweed again. So we'll see.
That's a really cool thing about our pastime, though, isn't it? That, like you say, you can be distracted or pulled in a completely different direction. It allows you to look at things through different eyes as well, doesn't it? And have a different view on things.
Absolutely. I think it keeps it fresh. You can get very blinkered. I think salmon fishers, especially, myself, I'm talking about here, not anyone else, but I can get very blinkered. And with springers, especially, you can get tunnel vision and it becomes quite obsessive. So I don't know. I think a change is as good as a rest sometimes. So we'll see. It won't last.
And I think the closed season is a great thing, because through the closed season, there is that element of anticipation and the appreciating. When you're fishing each day, or you're fishing a lot of the weeks, you take it for granted, but the closed season makes you realise exactly how much you do actually miss it. And you always start the season with optimism. That's a wonderful trait of a salmon angler.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sort of sitting there now and I'm watching fishing TV, and when you said Hooked on Scotland as well, because I'm sort of saving those episodes back. They've got the whole range of them and I'm going to binge the whole lot of it. But I'm sort of keeping that one back just for my last hurrah. But I'm watching all sorts of stuff, and I know, Colin, I don't know if Ian, you've caught steelhead at all, but I've got this thing now about landlocked steelhead and the ones that run out of Ontario, and I watched the Robert Thompson film about that, and that looked really good fun, and I'm thinking, perhaps I'd like to give that a go. And there is so much, and like you say, that closed season, you sort of step away from it for a while, but then it just suddenly starts to build up, either consciously or subconsciously within you, that you start thinking about it again. I'm old enough to know better, but I still get excited about it. That's the really frightening thing. Perhaps it's a good thing in some respects as well, but that whole build-up of what's to come. And Ian, are you travelling to fish this year, or are you staying local?
You know, it's I'm generally staying at home this year. Having had the opportunity to travel many seasons, I do find that the willingness to travel is not so much, and the appreciation of what we do have in our home waters is actually increasing. And, you know, for us in the river this year, we had last year, season 24, we had what was really quite a positive season in relative terms to where salmon fishing is just now. And it's great to see. I think the important thing that on the Tweed this year, there was definitely, dare I say, almost a buzz. You know, the numbers were much better this year. And whilst one swallow doesn't make a summer for recovery, I find that, you know, to see, if you ask me the question, where else in the world would you be if the fishing was good? The honest answer is, I wouldn't be anywhere else. I'd be fishing the Tweed system.
Yeah, I often say there's no place like home, is there?
That's absolutely right, Pete.
Yeah. And Colin, how about you? I know you've enjoyed steelhead as well. Is that something that you're going to look at again this year? Are you looking to travel, or again, are you staying local?
Oh, yeah, I missed out on steelhead this autumn because I was working on the Tweed, actually. So I was really happy to be down and to get a little taste. I really agree with what Ian said. I've never worked on the Tweed before, but I've fished it for a few years, and there was a lot of buzz, and there was a lot of people using words like the old days, which is a nice thing to be a part of. So it was good to see. So I will be looking forward to doing another season next year. But I think either before or after that, I definitely want to try and get back over to BC, because that's an addictive thing, steelhead. That'd ruin your marriage and your bank balance for sure.
The bank balance for sure.
Yeah. But I've got a few things lined up. I've got Norway in June and a few other bits and pieces. So, the usual chaos.
And this is funny, isn't it? That I kicked off the podcast by saying how lucky you were, Colin, and then you go down to the Tweed and they have a bonanza. Am I detecting something here now that perhaps you're the good karma for the Tweed?
Oh, I'm a really jammy git when it comes to salmon fishing. There's no denying it. What is it they say? It's better to be lucky than good. I'm a disciple of that. Yeah.
It's a gift, Colin. It's a gift.
Absolutely. And Colin, I've got to thank you as well for your advice with the van as well. So for myself as well, I think the van, again, is something, realising the amazing fishing that we've got in the UK and the ability now to travel around. And your advice with that was absolutely fantastic. And I thank you for that. And I'm just loving every second of it. It's quite addictive, isn't it?
Oh, it's the best. It is the best. Makes things a bit more accessible as well. Like, I think especially with salmon fishing, I find salmon fishing can often be expensive, as we know, and difficult to do. But if you can rock up with your van and camp for a couple of days and just pick, get in here and there at the last minute and stuff like that, all of a sudden it makes it really accessible. I think more people should give it a go. It's great fun. I mean, there are downsides, of course. If you go for 3 days salmon, I went to the Brora in April, and it was cold and wet, and my van was cold and wet for 3 days. But I caught springers, so that took the edge off it. And there's always the pub, The pub's
But the other thing about that, Colin, it's an extra dimension to angling, isn't it? It brings a portability. But an aspect, I've never done that type of thing, fishing in the van life, but I can already see the instant appeal of doing that, waking up next to the river and effectively having not restricted by hours. I think there must be a huge amount of appeal to that lifestyle in fly fishing.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a big thing in America, especially with trout fishing. And, in the Highlands, it's getting a lot busier with van tourism in the Highlands, which has caused a little bit of friction in places. But as long as you follow the rules and as long as you camp up where you're meant to and all the rest of it, you can literally just go off with your rod and do a bit of trout fishing and cook your fish over the fire. And it's almost, the fishing almost becomes a part of a bigger picture rather than it all being about catching that fish. You got that lifestyle, and
that's excellent.
I'm a big advocate of it, for sure.
Yeah, I think me being involved with it has probably made it seriously uncool now as well, but as latterly jumping on the bandwagon. But I kind of like the idea that it's, to me, like a big estate that I can put all my kit in, and then I've got the option to sleep in it should I want to sleep in it. And that's how I'm sort of viewing it and enjoying every aspect of that at the moment. So that's really good fun. But before we go off down a camping wormhole, I'm getting that sense of what you said about the Tweed and the rivers. And how would you describe 2024, Ian? If you had to mark it from 0 to 10, what would you mark it?
It's a very interesting question, Pete, because historically within my generation, I mean, we were fortunate, people of my age, mid-50s, that professionally work on the river experienced the best the river could offer. And we have struggled. We all know that salmon fishing is a struggle just now. We just have to accept that as a fact. And, the optimism that was there last year, I think as much as anything was weather related, temperature related. It was a wet year. The waters were generally higher. The summer was generally cooler. And I think that the gate was opened in the system so the fish could run more freely, not inhibited by temperature restrictions or indeed low water conditions. And the interesting thing is that primarily now we are fishing for spring and summer fish. And there's very, very few fresh fish come in at what would be historically September, October, November in the good old days of my generation. So I think that definitely weather conditions, and salmon fishing is a wonderful thing. Rain equals fish in salmon fishing. And, the rain is by definition cooling the water. It's obviously increasing the water height too. And I think that is the major factor that we have been dealing with. And it looks as if the Tweed will hit around about 10,000 fish for the season, which is very positive, really. And as Colin was saying before, you could hear the words, like the old days, was a quote that I often heard from guests that have been long-term fishers. And, you have to take great optimism, but obviously still respect the fact that, it's there is major issues that we're having to deal with at this present time.
Yeah. And how about you, Colin?
I'm an eternal optimist. So I thought it was a great season. It reminded me a little bit of the lockdown season up here. The fish were later as well with us. We did have, traditionally we have like a couple of like springers and grills turn up at the end of May, beginning to middle, something like that. Then there's a wee gap and then the run comes. And this year we had that. We had a few fish come in May, and then there was nothing until sort of almost into July, and everybody was starting to get a wee bit twitchy. and the conditions were good as well, which was sort of making everybody very twitchy. But from July through into August for us, it was just incredible fishing, really good. And the quality of the grills was the best. I've gillied at Grimmerstow since I was 15 years old, so 20 odd years. It's the best quality of grills I've ever seen. They were all between 6 and 8 pounds and like bullets, like little tuna.
Outstanding, Colin.
Yeah. So the feeding's been good. The returns have been good. And then going down to the Tweed and getting to see that as well. And similarly there, the quality of the fish was amazing. I barely saw any fish under 10 pounds, which was, it was a real shock for me coming from the Hebrides where it's all about the grills, and all of a sudden you're like, don't strike and let it run and all that. It's good fun. But yeah, no, it was a great season. I know there was a lot of bad stuff happening around the globe, so it's interesting. You always have to be conscientious and aware of salmon as a whole. But I like it, as Ian is saying, I think optimism is the absolute best weapon we have at the moment, and it was a good year for optimism.
That's a fascinating word that keeps coming up, optimism. And one of the questions I was going to ask you were, as anglers and as salmon anglers, we're optimistic by nature, but also that optimism, I guess, gets a boost when people are catching some fish too, don't they, right, Ian?
Most definitely. I mean, fly fishing ultimately is a conclusional sport, isn't it? We love the environment, we love the whole aspect of it and the lifestyle around it. But, ultimately, we do like catching fish. Of course we do. And as a result of that, you're looking at... because that was being fulfilled, and because the other element, which is very important, it has a very positive impact on the local economy too, and it also has a very positive impact on not only the present year, 2024, but actually off the back of 24's performance, 25 will let quite well, because people will speculate that it's going to be the same. So, there's many benefits to the fish that are coming in the system in reasonable numbers. And I have to say, on our water on Sunlows in the River Tevia, I did watch a huge amount of spawners from effectively the middle to the end of October onwards. And that in itself, you have to take great faith and optimism from.
And a question I often ask, and Colin, I'd like to ask you, because obviously you're involved with tackle, you're involved with gillying as well. How does it feel to you? We've got this boost that you're having in your part of the world from improved runs, but is fishing, as you look at it more outwardly, how does it feel and look to you right now?
That's a tricky question. I don't know. I think it's really difficult to tell. On one hand, I think participation is falling, I would say. I think there was a bit of a bit of a boom around lockdown when people were looking for new things to try, and there was a bit of a boom in fishing. And it was the same with a lot of things. We noticed up here as well with surfing. There was a lot of new people started surfing, and then they've disappeared. They've sold their boards and gone back to whatever else they're doing. I think it's happening with fishing as well. Although on the flip side of that, I met a guy when I was walking the dog yesterday on the beach, a local fisherman, and he said he'd seen how great the rivers were last year, and he tried to book somewhere away in April, and he was trying to book anywhere in the Highlands, and he couldn't get a single booking. So it is going to be really interesting to see next season how things pan out and what effect it has on it. But I think like we're saying, I think there's a shifting baseline here. Like people coming into salmon fishing need to have an understanding of that it's tricky, and you might go a long time without catching a fish. And I think that's probably, just talking specifically about salmon fishing, I think that's probably the one thing which is causing a lot of new anglers to fall by the wayside, because it is hard to find them sometimes, and it does make a difference in how many people stick at it. So
I think that's actually an excellent point, Colin. I think a lot of it is managing expectation at the right amount of optimism, but also when you come into salmon fishing, you're a new salmon fisher, I have often been asked recently, is short term as 5, 6 weeks ago, is how many fish are we going to catch? How many do you think we'll get? Are we going to get 2, 3, 4? And I think that we have to get beyond that to just manage the fact that under salmon fishing just now, particularly later in the season, when you're looking at older fish, that the people have got a fair understanding about what they can get and what numbers they would expect to get. And keeping people in the sport is relative to that. So many people will come into salmon fishing and had 2 or 3 visits with little conclusion or no conclusion and potentially fall by the wayside as a result of that. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. And I think that's where the sport is going to struggle going forward into the future, is maintaining, for the last 5, 10 years, we've been marketing to a new audience. Our Tweed River has been very much a question of the same people coming year in, year out. And they've either gotten older or, in some instances, many instances, passed away. And the next generation has seen the demise, and they are they're effectively voting with their feet, and they're flying over to various destinations that are now open. The world is a very small world when it comes to fly fishing now, and we're getting more destination anglers as a result.
And you make some interesting points about keeping people engaged and, more importantly, managing expectations. And I wondered, while you were saying that, if that's a function of how society has shifted for the pace and speed of how life feels now, that people want that immediate, right, this is happening, right, that hasn't happened, I'm going to go and do something else now. Do you think there is a little element of that, Colin, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've talked about it probably every time we've chatted about social media and the impact of social media, but it does boils down our sport to a single photo, and I'm as guilty of it as anyone else. We make spate videos, and we get to go and fish in cool places, and we often catch fish, especially with springers, but there's hours and days and weeks of no fish. I've gone a full spring season without catching a springer, and I'm sure it'll happen again, fishing hard, fishing like a couple of trips each month. But of course, that doesn't generate algorithms or generate clicks, just empty shots of a river that may not have a fish in it. People want to see that trophy shot. So it does, it's a big prize, and it's a beautiful prize. And those pictures drive the social media aspect of it. So of course it's going to have a knock-on effect when people go half a dozen times and don't catch one. They're like, I think I'll go back to golf or whatever. So, yeah.
Any thoughts, Ian?
So if in the springtime, it is the absolute prize. There is no better fish than a February or March springer, absolute prime condition. But it's hard work. You have to put the hours in. But if you're able to have the fortune to be able to hook in and land, it's the best experience in Atlantic salmon fishing that I honestly think that I certainly could have, and that somebody would be able to have in the sport.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm at the stage, I still on my home river, I think it's 3 years I've not had a fish. And that doesn't stop me. And it's wonderful, first off, to hear you guys speaking so positively. And I'm hoping, because those runs are so much bigger, that ours are so much smaller, that we will see those incremental improvements, fingers crossed, that's the case. But that doesn't stop me for 1 second not enjoying it like I've enjoyed it. And I will be there on the 1st of March, and I will continually be there to try and see if anyone's home. And of course, Colin, I'm lucky that I go to that wonderful little river and catch some fish up there if I'm very, very lucky as well in the summer. So that sort of keeps that part of it going. And it's interesting what you said about picture there, because I had a picture of a fish that I caught there. And I said to Emma, there was another one I caught. We didn't even take a picture of it. I said, that's between you, me, and the fish. And that's enough for me. That's absolutely fine. So, yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying about this, that, yes, the social media aspect of it can drive it, but there's so much more to it, I think. And those moments just for that line going tight, and it's been a bloody long time for me, but that won't stop me for 1 second being there and enjoying it. I was already looking at lines yesterday, getting rods ready, thinking, right, what do I need? That my enthusiasm for it does not wane. And that's against the background, the two rivers I fish here, the Tor and the Tamar, had abysmal years last year. Absolutely abysmal. And it might be where I fish on the Tamar, they had 2 fish for the season. And the Tor, the total river, are probably about 30, 35 fish, if that. But that won't stop it for one second. I don't love it any less. And I think there is something deeper in us, isn't there, than, like you say, sometimes, and superficial is an unfair word, but there is something deeper that some of us get, that it doesn't matter, does it? It is that bigger part of it that keeps us coming back and back and back, isn't it?
Well, it's anticipation, isn't it? Of any fish taken, it's anticipation. But when you are there, particularly in the colder months, and physically you are challenging yourself, it's all for the anticipation. If you're a seasoned angler and you've caught fish, you know exactly what to expect. And for an angler that has never experienced it, it's very, very hard to describe. But when they do experience that initial contact, it's just an absolute shot of adrenaline. And there's very little other elements in our world that offer us as fly fishers. It's the old cliche, it's the tug is the drug, isn't it?
It's funny as well. I don't know what it is about salmon, but I've never caught a springer in March at Grimmerstow. And every year I go and try, and I'll go maybe, I mean, it's half an hour away, so I'll try once a week maybe. If I was trout fishing and I went to a loch every March for 20 odd years and didn't catch a trout, I would never, well, it wouldn't be 20 years. I'd go a couple of years and be like, nah, that one doesn't work. I'll go somewhere else. But I still go back to this stupid place and go, maybe this year, 24 years later. It's crazy.
Yeah, it always makes me laugh that it sounds a clunk, but I was fishing the Deschutes and a guy was whinging that he hadn't had a fish that week. And I didn't say it at the time, but I hadn't had one for that year. At home, so it sort of kind of put it in perspective. And I'd had a couple of steelhead, and I was over the moon. I couldn't believe my luck. So I thought it was absolutely fantastic. But yes, it is that management, and I think it is that where that fish chooses you, that line comes to life. That is all I need. I don't even care if it comes off now. I'm at that stage; it doesn't matter. It's just that moment. That fish has chosen me, and that's enough to keep me going. And we're segueing beautifully, because I'd love to move on to the Tweed Salmon Festival. Ian, how did it come about?
I think the wonderful thing that we have in the river is we have a tremendous provenance that goes back 200 to 300 years of gillies guiding people on the river in search of Atlantic salmon. And I think we're all kindred spirits to a degree. It's a community, and I think community is exactly the right word. And Colin is a member of the community. You're a member of the community. As fly fishers, we are one big part of the community, different dimensions of it. But the wonderful thing about the fair, I mean, collective discussions with Colin and with the other members of the Gillian community here in the Tweed, is that we do really appreciate that we have major concerns about going forward, but also we are also grateful that we have such a strong community of gillying people that have been coming to the river for years, gillies that have been on the river up to 40 years now. And it's a question of pulling us together for a 3-day event and being in a situation where throughout various different elements that we have is we can educate next generation anglers, we can educate present anglers, and we can all come together for a wonderful weekend under the common denominator of salmon fishing and fly fishing. And I think that was the start of the conversations that we all collectively had.
And Colin, I know when I saw you in April last year, it was kind of brewing then, wasn't it? I think you touched that it may have been early stages, it may well not have been, but it's something that's been brewing for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was sort of... everyone was thinking it, and then you get that thing where everybody's having the same idea, and then you start talking about it, and all of a sudden it snowballs. And that's it. It was it came about all very naturally. It was nice. I mean, I think the key thing for me, though, as we've been talking about, was to do something that was about positivity and community and, you know, the lifestyle and that, all these things that we talk about, you know, that are important to us, and to attract new people in without the sense of impending doom. I mean, I don't want to, well, I suppose I can say whatever I want. Nobody's going to arrest me, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on at the moment with various Atlantic salmon charities and events, and you know, I think there's one going on in London just now, and it's and they're quite heavy duty, they're quite science heavy, they're quite sort of, you know, the numbers are all falling, the graphs are all very depressing to look at, and it is difficult for people to swallow that pill. But it is a pill that needs to be swallowed. So, you know, the idea was, let's get people together and with an air of positivity and say, like Eoin says, there are challenges. It is tough, but we're anglers and we love our rivers. So let's, you know, show that and see what we can do. You know, I don't know. It's like a party for the end of the world or whatever. I don't mean it like that, but it's just sort of like a bit of an alternative, really, to what has been talked about recently.
I think we're polarising the community, aren't we? Really, that's the thing, is that there's been a tremendous amount of reception. What a wonderful idea. But it's polarising the fly fishing community. A, to accept that we have a problem. B, to do something about it. And also keep that feeling of friendship, camaraderie. And, you know, for us going forward, the most important thing for us is that we have to have next generation anglers. We have to have fish in the river, but we also have to have next generation anglers to fish for them too. So a lot of the festival is based around education, and a lot of the festival is based around, through the inclusion of Tweed Salmon, of bringing in younger anglers, the custodians of the sport going forward. But also the other element, which is we want to encourage more women fly fishers to come in. It's generally been a male-dominated sport, and it's access for all, basically. And the various activities that we have planned is very much for, this is a very open, you will be welcomed, and we will collectively try and give you the best possible experience to set you down a journey that's hopefully a fly fishing journey.
And has it proved to be a big but fun task so far? And how did it feel when you sort of set up your social handles and everything else, and those first few posts went out? How was that?
Well, once the social went live, that was obviously the commitment. We'd nailed the colours to the mast, so that was the job, is whatever was happening. But I mean, these things, they always take a huge amount of work. There's a logistical element that is basically a daily job, as it is just now. And it's a collective team of guys that are working towards that end goal. But from every shape or form, from working on the logistics of the various events, the timings of the various events, to the retailers, to the film show, to Colin's very kindly going to do a live music set, which is going to be extremely popular, and right down to working out where we're going to park everybody. It is a logistical effort, and planning has been going on for at least 3 months, and we've got another 2 months to go to the event.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to drill down a little bit more into it, but I guess you two guys, between the just the two of you, have wonderful imagery to be able to put out for people as well, Colin. There's so much. The posts so far from the Instagram site have been absolutely fantastic, and I guess your work has been behind that a little bit too.
No, that's all Eoin. Yeah,
oh,
Eoin is the mastermind of the.
No, mastermind's not the right word, Colin.
But yeah, I occasionally lend myself as a dirtbag model when Eoin needs me. But yeah, that's all Eoin's imagery.
The thing about it is that just by location and by the seasonality, just working on the river, is that I'm fortunate enough to have a database that is through from February right through to the end of November. So we've been able to pull upon that. But we're also pulling upon digital assets from other companies that are looking to, you know, the exhibitors that we have, they're producing content for us and are giving us content to be able to project the feeling. What the feeling that we hope to captivate in the socials is that friendliness, is that engaging. Nobody should ever feel intimidated coming to the event. It's a very open and friendly event, and we want a young, dynamic element of this. We want a good, excuse me for using the word, but a good positive vibe to the whole thing. That people think this event is on, I'm going to be welcomed. It's going to be an opportunity to learn a new skill. It's going to be an opportunity to enhance a present skill. And so what we try and do with the socials is to be able to project that visually in both photographic and digital and video form.
Fantastic. And Colin, how much is it to attend?
It's free. It's free to attend, and all are welcome. Yeah, no prior fishing experience necessary. Just rock up and grab a beer, and come and join in. Everyone's welcome.
The way that it works out is it's all on a volunteer basis, Pete, and so everybody is volunteering their time. It's a non-commercial grassroots initiative, and we wanted to extend that to anybody. There is no cost for the duration of the weekend. If somebody would see it to, in some shape or form, make a donation to the various charities, which I'm sure we'll speak about, then that would be wonderful. But you're not going to be restricted. We're not restricting the event by any form of paid presence or ticket sales.
And you've touched on a little bit about what people can expect. Can you drill down on that just a little bit for us, please, Colin?
Yeah, sure. So we're going to have an exhibition area for brands. We'll have Mackenzie Fly Fishing, Fin and Game, the shop in Kelso, NAM, Loch Waders, Next Cast, CND. Patagonia have been big sponsors of it, big supporters, which is amazing. And they're bringing the Warnwear trailer along, which will be great. I do, although, have to add in this caveat, which they keep telling me to: we cannot fix waders, but we can fix anything else you bring along. So, yeah. And we'll have fly dressers. Stuart Foxhall's going to come, which is great. He always brings the party. And then we've got some demonstrators on the loch. We're doing spey casting demos. Everyone's really looking forward to seeing Ian doing a demo at the spey casting loch. And it's going to be great. There's so much stuff. We'll have a full itinerary up soon, but basically it's education, conservation. We're going to have the brands there. You're going to be able to try all the kit, and of course Pete's going to be there too, chatting and hanging out,
which we're very much looking forward to.
Me too.
The wonderful thing about salmon fishing as a sport is the underlying element of salmon fishing is spey casting. And spey casting transcends both single-handed right through to 18-foot competition rods. And so, of course, Atlantic salmon is the main elements of it. But the under element, the under message is come and learn spey casting in every shape or form. Every modern technique, even have a shot at distance casting. We're hoping to have we are having a spey casting competition that Mackenzie Fly Fishing is going to sponsor. But there's an opportunity to learn from people that are world-class, world champion casters and instructors, and be able to share their knowledge very generously through the demonstration platform, but as well as that interactive one-to-one instructional opportunity too.
It sounds like there's something for everybody there. Ian, what's going to happen in the evening? You touched on Colin's musical appearance as well as his fishing and other skills too. How long into the evening does each night go?
So we're very excited. It was actually Colin that made the suggestion, and I was absolutely blown away by the opportunity to have Colin singing. We're going to call it Live at the Loch. And Colin, as we all know, is multi-talented in a range of different elements. But to have him singing there over the trout loch at 8 o'clock on a lovely April evening as the sun's setting over the loch will be something that will be the highlight of our event, and we've had a tremendous response to that. People know Colin anyway, external to fly fishing, and we're going to have a good crowd, and it's going to be a super evening, and the acoustic version of Colin singing will be outstanding. We're going to plug him into a mic, and Colin is going to do one of the things that he does best, which is entertain the crowd.
I'm looking forward to that immensely. And for listeners, you probably will know Colin's been on the podcast a couple of times. Look up his music on Spotify or wherever it may be. It is absolutely fantastic. It's good enough to come along just for that. Plus, we've got fishing thrown in as well. So I think you should have a good listen and enjoy that as well. So you've talked about there's a number of brands. There's going to be fly tying. There's going to be casting help. What would you say? You sort of touched on the ethos a little bit, but would you like to just reiterate that, Colin, for us of what you would love when you're packing down and people walk up to you at the end saying, wow, that was amazing. What would you like from that as people walk away?
I think the biggest thing for me is that people come and make new friends and, become, like Ian's saying there, we're a community. We want to bring new people into the community. I think for me, a lot of times when I've been to fly fishing events, it's very much you come, you see, you leave. We want people to hang around, come and sit with us. I'll be there working for NAM. I'll be doing the NAM stand, and come and hang out, come and chat. It's not about just buying a rod and buying a reel or buying a fly line, whatever it is. It's about sort of meeting people, because we're all people that are obsessed with fly fishing, obsessed with salmon fishing. And similarly, we're going to have an area set up for talks, so people can come and get a coffee and just listen and join in. And, that interactive thing, I think, is what we're hoping is going to set us apart from other fly fishing festivals. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's nice. It's a festival, and festival's all about just getting together and having a good time.
And one of the elements which is a major part is through the 2-day events, the loch, which is about an acre in size, is where we principally do all our instruction, Pete, and Tweed Start, which is a non-profit making organisation that's under the stewardship of the Tweed Foundation. And for 2 days, for Saturday and Sunday, they will offer introductory fly fishing lessons for youngsters to come, for families to come. And they'll learn every element of becoming a fly fisher. And ultimately health and safety first, which is also always very important. But from identifying the invertebrates in the loch to being able to imitate the invertebrates with the fly, and that they've tied themselves, and then ultimately to take them onto the water, onto the loch, for them to learn how to fly cast the fly that they've been taught how to tie, and ultimately to hopefully catch a fish. And wouldn't that be a wonderful experience? And the trout loch is well stocked. It always fishes well early part of the season, and we'll make sure that there's a level that in teaching children to fly fish, it's important in the early stages that they feel ultimately the connection with the fish, and that's what we're planning towards for that event. But one very important, equally important element of it is we will have a specific area for women to learn to fly cast and fly fish, taught by lady instructors. And we have Lucy Bowden Croston with her ladies club, and they will help teach ladies to fish on the loch. They'll have a designated area for them specifically to teach, where women can be taught by women.
I'm really starting to get very, very excited about it. And it feels to me as though your timing is fantastic, because I've always felt that fishing needs something like this to break out a little and help it make it appear externally a little less formal. And I think festivals are a wonderful term to use, because it's doing that. And was that part of it as well, that's to break down how externally the perception of fly fishing is perhaps sometimes seen, Colin?
Yeah, it was a big thing for me because I don't like to wear a jacket and tie. So I was pushing hard for the beer and hot dogs and gig
And your
outside.
lumberjack shirt.
Lumberjack shirt, yeah. Hipster
Which
fly
I'm going to have to
fisher.
order, Colin.
Yeah. No, it's a big thing for me, definitely. I of course, there's two sides to every coin, and you know there is the formal aspect of fly fishing and the tradition, which I love, but there's also this sort of, I don't know, undercurrent sort of subculture of fly fishing as well. And I think the nice thing about this is that it's bringing the two together. You know,
Completely.
it's not exclusive of anyone. If you know, everyone's welcome. Like I'm saying, it's as simple as that.
And I think that the festival communication, by definition, is an engaging, friendly communication of the event. Everybody's welcome. We want you for 2 days to come and learn all aspects of fly fishing, make new friends, have a great time, be entertained, and just enjoy a social weekend with people, not even like-minded fly fishers, because ultimately we're looking to encourage people to come into fly fishing. Strength is in numbers. More fly fishers, we have more people looking after their rivers and their waterways.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. And Ian, it also mentioned, my ears pricked up because hot dogs were mentioned, coffee was mentioned. Are there going to be, beer was mentioned? Are there food and drink and those sorts of things being put on too?
Yeah, so we've reached out to a number of local companies, and we've been very fortunate, and Colin has been a major part in this, in securing 2 elements of sponsorship, which has been a tremendous boost to the event. One of them is Patagonia, and one of them is Yeti, the 2 best lifestyle brands out there. And we're very fortunate in both instances. They are very much supporting the concept of the fair. And Yeti is shown tremendous support product related, and what we're going to do on the Saturday night is we are going to, in some shape or form, integrate Yeti with a local brewer. They're very keen to work with local companies and to showcase and sponsor elements of the evening that Colin's performing on the Saturday night at the Loch. And it's very, very positive just now. We have a craft beer and a craft cider company, both very interested in working with us as local businesses, working within the community, keeping very much the ethos of the fair. And we're very grateful for the support of both the major world brands and also, you know, a small brewery that does craft beer.
And is there, for people travelling up, is there camping, B&Bs, hotels, those sorts of things nearby for people should they want to stay over for the whole duration?
So one of the things that we should say about and just talk briefly about is the location. So the location is at the Slush Roxburgh. Many people would know it as, first of all, the Sun-Laws Hotel, latterly the Roxburgh Hotel, and where its present form is just now, which is the Slush Roxburgh near Kelso. So the whole event is within the gates of the estate. And so it's possible to stay at the hotel. The hotel has 56 houses, so it's possible to stay on site within one of the catered houses. There's camping in Kelso, so everybody finds their place where they want to stay. There's bed and breakfasts in Kelso, all different ranges of price points. So, you know, whether you're looking for somewhere to park up your camper or you're looking for something that has a little bit of luxury and everything in between, Kelso would be able to fulfill that for the duration of the weekend. And one of the things that we're hoping to do is we're hoping to catalyst. So the catalyst is the festival, so that we're hopefully encouraging people to come pre the festival to fish and post the festival to fish, and use the festival in the middle. The middle is the common denominator. So we're actively trying to encourage fishers to come up to fish, but also to visit the festival. And accommodation in the local area, both Kelso and slightly further afield, will be numerous options.
And that's a wonderful example, again, of fishing helping the local community on a wider scale as well. So
exactly,
congratulations on that. I guess the first year is always the trickiest, but it feels to me like you have everything absolutely nailed down. Would you like this to develop and grow and become an annual event too, Colin?
Yes, I would. But That's my opinion on it. Yes.
I think that we'll be very interested to see how well the concept is taken by visitors. And from my own point of view, looking at it, I always looked upon it as a wonderful opportunity. I never looked much beyond year one, and let's see how year one goes. And if the community leads the charge, I would be delighted to be involved in the future. And if we get a collective people, like-minded people that say we need to do this again, we've got great guys that are involved. There's a hardcore membership of about 6 very proactive people in this concept. That if we get a wonderful positive response, because like yourself and like Colin, you can see that this could be a special event with all the various elements of this, and so. I'm very open-minded. Colin knows I'm very open-minded, so we'll see how it develops.
And Eoin, what would you, when you're packing down afterwards, how would you want to feel about this? How would you gauge it as a success? Do you have something that is underlying for you that you think, that's what I want from this? Because it seems to me from both of you, it's not about numbers. It's not about bottom lines. You're not interested in any of that. You want to engage people. Would that be what you would describe as a success?
I would say totally in line with a comment that Colin made before. And that is the simple fact is that you want people to come and engage and learn a new skill, have a wonderful time with like-minded people, and be introduced into the world of fly fishing. If you're in a situation, the nature of our jobs, and Colin will totally relate to this, is that many of my customers will say, you have a picture over the mantelpiece of you with my 10-year-old son and his first salmon. And the wonderful thing about that is you're part of lifetime memories. And Colin can say that as equal as I can for people that have caught fish, their first ever fish. And to be able to be part of a process that I started fly fishing, I ignited it, and a passion was ignited for me at the Tweed Salmon Festival. If people are saying that, then that is, for me, is exactly what I'd ask for it. And the other element, we are fundraising at the same time, and we're fundraising for the Tweed Foundation, which is the scientific body of the River Tweed. And so what we're trying to do is to raise funds for youth development and for Tweed Start, but we're also looking to offer some form of aid by the gillies to potentially purchase water quality monitoring equipment. And so we're looking to ultimately engage as many people as we can, hopefully feel as if we've made a positive input into salmon conservation by supporting initiatives that we firmly believe in, which is the Tweed Foundation. And so it's multi-layered, but it's all good can come out of what we're going to do.
How about you, Colin?
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. I think Eoin summed it up perfectly. Yeah, it's just about engagement, and it's just about, we're in a world ruled by numbers and figures and followers and all that kind of stuff. And if one person comes and goes away thinking, I'm going to give this salmon fishing go, I think that's a winner for me. So yeah, yeah, I think Eoin summed it up perfectly.
Have you got in a timetable of what will be happening over the next few months so people can be engaged by what's happening?
So we're virtually signed off on the programme for the 2-day event. And one of the reason that I mentioned it was a 3-day event earlier on is that there's a high potential that we're going to have a charity clay shoot on the Thursday of the lead up to the event. And this is for the Tweed Foundation. It's their event, and they're effectively going to come into the event celebrations as a festival. And so we're looking at the time scale for the officially it would start off with the clay event, which is a fundraiser, and then Saturday and Sundays when we get to the recourse fly fishing activities, we will of course keep people up to date as things develop. We are 95% confirmed as an event. The event is going forward regardless, but we're 95% confirmed on all the various attendees, all the various activities that we're going to have. And what we're trying to do through the socials is keep a constant update on exactly what is going to happen and the lead up and what to expect, for the charity clay shoe, which is the day before, and mainly for the fly fishing events, and give people the opportunity for information about the opening times. There's no charge. Make sure that we communicate that. Another element that we are very excited about is on the Sunday, we've managed to secure the film rights for the fly fishing tour that goes globally around the world of fly fishing. So we have the conclusion of the event will be the fly fishing tour, and we're going to showcase the world's best filmmakers as a conclusion. And at the event, we're planning also to have a charity fundraising during the intermissions of the films. And another exciting project that we're working on just now is we actually are submitting a film for the film festival, which is effectively centred around the gillies. Colin's involved in that, I'm involved in that, and we're making very good progress with that. The hardship that we find is we need to catch a couple of springers on film, which is easier said than done. We all know that here, but we've already got some excellent footage of that, and we're very excited for that as a end of the event.
And Colin, it seems to me that it doesn't matter if you're a newcomer, if you're salmon curious, or you're experienced. It seems to me as though you've just got every base covered for people to be engaged with salmon fishing.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's key. We've talked a lot about engaging new people and the instruction and all the rest of it, but it really is open to everyone. And if you're a salmon bum, then come along. There'll be a lot of people there that you'll have heard of and you'll know, especially from the demonstrators' points of view. And if you have any interest in spey casting, I would strongly urge you to come along, because there'll be some good stuff on the go over the weekend.
Wonderful. And Ian, you mentioned about donations as well. Was that for the Tweed
Foundation?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. So the charity that we've chosen to support is the Tweed Foundation. For the river, it obviously is heavily invested in improving the river. And we're all stakeholders. The gillies are stakeholders. The major stakeholders. It's sustainability. The gillies see the river in different forms during the course of the year. And we can all say that we are, and we've spoken about it many times, both today and even in just community friendship discussions, we're concerned about going forward in the number of salmon. So by raising funds for a body that is actively trying to improve the numbers of salmon and also actively encourage the number of young participants going forward to take the baton, if you like, is why we firmly believe that Tweed Foundation should receive the funds from all the work that we do.
Fantastic. And how can people find you on the socials? What are the social handles?
So our Instagram is tweed.salmon.festival, and we've had a tremendous response with the followers so far, and we will then start the 1st of February, which is, as you know, is the start of our salmon season, is effectively when we'll start the main projection of the fair. So it's wonderful to get into the season. It's new season, full of optimism. And what we'll do is we'll ramp up the socials. We'll have a Facebook presence. The Instagram is, as I said, is tweed.salmon.festival. Follow us on that, and you'll there get a very accurate, up-to-date timeline.
Wonderful. And I never ask anything from this podcast, but this is two good people doing something good for fishing. I'll never charge you for this podcast, but if you could just go along, give them a like, give them a follow, like their posts. Let's get behind what good people are doing for our pastime. And they're not looking to rip the backside out of it. They're trying to do something good for us. And I think we should shout about that. So please, 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 if you could, give them some support in any way that you possibly could. It would be even really cool if you went along to it as well. But these are good people. We've got to support people like this within our pastime, within our passion to do this. And they've got up, they put their head above the parapet, and they're trying to do something good for us. So if you could please just give them a follow, I'd greatly, greatly appreciate it. And thank you greatly for that. Let's round this off beautifully because we're just coming up an hour. Can you give us a song for the fly culture? Because I've got a long drive up to see you guys, so I've got to listen to a lot of music. So, Colin, can you give me a song for the fly culture road trip playlist, please?
Okay, I've got a song. This is a song that I've discovered recently, but it's not a recent song. By Jackson C. Frank. It's called Blues Run the Game. It's a beautiful little acoustic song that I keep hearing popping up in places over the last 6 months. So yeah, that's my new fave. So
fantastic.
I might send you to sleep on the drive though. Sorry, it's pretty.
No, I shall have a good listen to that. I've written that one down, so I'm going to have a listen to that in a minute. Like I said earlier, listen to Colin's music as well. That is fantastic. Ian, what have you got for me?
Well, I'm an old rocker at heart, to be honest, Pete, and blues rock for me. So I'm going to give you the Black Keys, and I've got mine. It has just got such a thumping beat, and when I need to get motivated, I'll just put that on at 10, and it just gets me every time.
That's one of my favourite songs. Love that one.
There we go. We get 2 choices for the price of 1 today as well, so that we can go have a listen to those. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you. I'm getting excited about what is to come. I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to post. And I wish you every success that this deserves. I know it's going to be successful because it's got 2 wonderful people behind it. But I would like to say a massive thank you for being a guest on the podcast today.
Thank you very much indeed, Pete.
Okay, everyone. Well, this has been another episode of the Fly Culture Podcast. Thank you so much for listening to this one. There'll be some more episodes coming very, very soon. Thank you so much for listening.
The Fly Culture Podcast is brought to you in association with Fly Culture, a quarterly published magazine owned and run by fly anglers. When it comes to fly fishing, we've got you covered.